To the outside world, Charlotte and Liam were the golden couple of the year. Their social media was a curated gallery of honeymoon bliss, romantic brunches, and shy smiles. But inside the sprawling Sterling estate, a silent, suffocating war had begun. Charlotte had become a method actress in her own life, wearing a mask of fragility while her mind sharpened like a blade. Every morning, she woke up next to the man plotting her demise. She let Liam kiss her cheek, let him call her sweetheart, while fighting the urge to vomit. She played the role perfectly. She started small, misplacing her keys on purpose, forgetting appointments she had written down, asking Liam to repeat things he had just said. She watched the satisfaction bloom in his eyes every time she stumbled. He thought his plan was working. He thought she was cracking. But the real game was happening in the shadows. Charlotte had turned the mansion into a surveillance state. While Liam was at the office, she and Julian, the private investigator who had saved her in the hotel closet, installed pinhead-sized cameras in the living room, the study, and most importantly, the kitchen. The first major blow came on a Tuesday evening. Charlotte was upstairs, watching the live feed on her burner phone. Down in the kitchen, Liam was preparing her nightly herbal tea, a ritual he insisted on to help her sleep. On the screen, the image was crisp. Liam looked over his shoulder, checking the hallway. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glass vial. He uncorked it and tipped 3 drops of clear liquid into her steaming mug. He stirred it with a spoon, wiped the counter, and put on his doting husband's smile before heading upstairs. Charlotte's heart hammered against her ribs. Seeing it on a screen was different than suspecting it. It was cold, hard proof. When Liam walked into the bedroom moments later, tray in hand, Charlotte was sitting up in bed, looking pale and trembling, exactly how he wanted her. "Here you go, baby," Liam cooed, setting the mug on the nightstand. "Drink it while it's hot. It'll calm those nerves." "You're so good to me," Charlotte whispered, her voice weak. She waited for him to turn toward the bathroom to brush his teeth. The second he was out of sight, she poured the tea into the soil of the large potted peace lily in the corner of the room. She refilled the mug with warm water from the carafe on her nightstand and sat back down. When Liam returned, she was finishing the last sip. "Better?" he asked. "Much better," she lied. By the end of the week, the peace lily was dead. Its leaves had turned a sickly yellow and shriveled into brown husks. Charlotte took a picture of the dead plant and sent it to Julian. The caption read, "The only thing dying in this house is the plant." But Julian had news of his own, and it was news that would shift Charlotte's goal from survival to pure, unadulterated vengeance. They met in the back of a 24-hour diner 2 towns over. Julian slid a thick file across the greasy table. His face was grim. "I looked into the crash," Julian said, his voice low. "Your father's accident. The police report said brake failure due to wear and tear. But I found the mechanic who worked on the car 3 days before the crash." Charlotte felt a cold hand grip her heart. She opened the file. Photos of a mangled sedan. Bank statements. "Liam paid him," Julian continued. $50,000, wired to an offshore account 2 days before your parents died. It wasn't an accident, Charlotte. It was an execution. The world stopped. The grief she had been carrying turned into something solid and heavy, like iron. Liam hadn't just targeted her fortune. He had murdered the only family she had left to get to it. He had looked her in the eye at the funeral, held her hand, and wiped her tears, all while standing on the graves he had dug. Charlotte closed the file. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. "I don't just want him in jail," she said, her voice terrifyingly calm. "I want to destroy him. I want him to lose everything before I let him die." "Then we proceed to phase 2, Julian said. "But you need to be ready. It's about to get crowded." The next day, Liam brought the wolf right to the door. He walked into the living room with a feigned look of concern, Vanessa trailing behind him with a suitcase. "Babe," Liam started. Vanessa's apartment building had a pipe burst. She has nowhere to go while they fix the water damage. I told her she could stay in the guest wing for a few weeks. Vanessa stood there, playing the part of the humble, embarrassed cousin. "I really don't want to intrude, Charlotte. I can find a hotel." Charlotte looked at the woman who was sleeping with her husband. She forced a warm, welcoming smile. "Don't be silly, Vanessa. Your family. Stay as long as you need." She hugged Vanessa, feeling the woman's stiff recoil. They thought they were infiltrating her safe space. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap. Having Vanessa in the house made it easier to sow discord. Charlotte began a campaign of psychological warfare. One afternoon, While Vanessa was reading a magazine in the sunroom, Charlotte sat down, looking distinctively confused. "Vanessa," Charlotte asked, "did Liam talk to you about the new plan?" Vanessa looked up, eyes narrowing. "What plan?" "Oh, I probably shouldn't say," Charlotte mumbled, rubbing her temples. "He talks in his sleep so much lately. Last night he was muttering about cutting loose ends. Something about how he doesn't need the middleman anymore once he gets the power of attorney. He mentioned he might marry that girl. What was her name? Jessica? Jessica was Liam's college ex, a woman Vanessa famously hated. He said that. Vanessa asked, her voice tight. "I think so," Charlotte sighed. "Or maybe I'm just imagining things. My head has been so foggy." She wandered away, leaving Vanessa staring at the wall, the seed of paranoia planted deep in her chest. While the tension in the house simmered, Charlotte and Julian prepared the death blow. They needed the smoking gun. Julian had tracked down Vanessa's real address, a secret apartment in the city she kept under a fake name. On a Friday when Liam was at a golf tournament and Vanessa was at a spa day, Charlotte made her move. She slipped out of the mansion, dressed in black, and met Julian. He drove her to the apartment complex. "You have 20 minutes, Julian told her, handing her a digital decoder for the keypad. "Get in, find the safe, and get out." Charlotte entered the apartment. It smelled like Vanessa, expensive perfume and stale cigarettes. She went straight to the bedroom closet. Behind a row of coats, she found the safe. She attached the decoder. The numbers cycled rapidly. Click. The door swung open. Charlotte reached in and pulled out a stack of documents. Her breath hitched. There were passports, fake IDs, and at the bottom, a marriage certificate. Liam Davis and Sienna Miller. Dated 3 years ago. They weren't cousins. They were husband and wife. Her marriage to Liam was void. It was bigamy. It was the ultimate fraud. She snapped photos of every page. She was shoving the papers back into the safe when she heard it, the beep of the front door lock. Her blood froze. Vanessa was home early. "Liam, stop yelling at me." Vanessa's voice drifted from the hallway. She was on the phone. "I'm at the apartment now to get the files." Charlotte looked around frantically. There was no way out. The window was on the 12th floor. The only hiding spot was the closet she was currently standing in. It was a cruel irony. Her nightmare had started in a closet, and now it might end in one. She pushed herself deep into the corner, behind a rack of long winter coats, and pulled the sliding door almost shut. She held her breath, her hand over her mouth. Vanessa stomped into the bedroom. "I don't care what she suspects, Liam. If you don't get that signature by Friday, I'm walking." Vanessa walked right up to the closet. Charlotte could see her silhouette through the crack. She reached for the handle. This is it, Charlotte thought. She opens this door and it's over. Suddenly, a deafening alarm ripped through the building. The fire alarm. "What the hell?" Vanessa screamed, covering her ears. "Attention," a robotic voice blared. "Fire reported on the 12th floor. Evacuate immediately." Damn it. Vanessa grabbed a few papers from the desk and ran out of the apartment. Charlotte sagged against the wall, trembling. Her phone buzzed. "Julian, I hacked the building's alarm system. You have 60 seconds before the fire department realizes it's a glitch. Run." Charlotte sprinted. She didn't stop until she was back in Julian's car, gasping for air, clutching the evidence that would bury them. "We have them," she panted. "We have everything." "Not yet," Julian said, his eyes hard. "We break them first. Then we bury them." The finale of the plan was a financial trap. Julian had set up a dummy corporation posing as a high-yield real estate investment firm. They sent the prospectus to Liam. It was too good to be true, triple returns in 6 months. Liam, greedy and desperate to cover his gambling debts before seizing Charlotte's fortune, took the bait hook, line, and sinker. He brought the papers to Charlotte that night. "It's a sure thing, babe," he said, sweating slightly. "I just need your signature to authorize the transfer from the trust. It's for our future." Charlotte pretended to hesitate. She let her hand shake as she held the pen. "Are you sure, Liam? Daddy always said to be careful." "Trust me," he snapped, then softened his tone. "Trust me, Charlotte." She signed. But she didn't sign Charlotte Sterling. She signed a squiggle that looked like it, but legally, it was gibberish. Liam didn't check. He transferred $2 million of his own liquid assets, money he had skimmed over the years, into the account to seed the investment. The money vanished instantly into an untraceable account controlled by Julian. Liam was now broke, desperate, and running out of time. The pressure made him sloppy. 2 days later, he decided he couldn't wait any longer. He needed full control now. He staged the breakdown. They were in the living room. Liam picked up a Ming vase, her mother's favorite, and hurled it against the fireplace. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Charlotte!" he screamed, backing away as the maids ran in. "Put the knife down." "Oh my God, someone help, she's got a knife." Charlotte stood there, empty-handed, watching him perform. I don't have a knife," she stammered, playing her part for the staff. "She's having an episode," Liam yelled. "Call Dr. Hightower. Now!" Dr. Hightower was the corrupt psychiatrist Liam had on his payroll. He was the man who would sign the commitment papers and lock Charlotte away forever. Liam paced the room while they waited, shooting terrified looks at the staff, playing the victim perfectly. The doorbell rang. "Thank God," Liam said, rushing to the door. "Doctor, she's completely lost it, she." He stopped dead. Standing in the doorway wasn't the sleazy Dr. Hightower. It was a tall, severe-looking man with silver glasses, accompanied by 2 stern nurses. "Mr. Sterling," the man said. "I'm Dr. Caldwell, Chief of Psychiatry at St. Jude's. Dr. Hightower had car trouble. He asked me to step in for this emergency evaluation." Julian had intercepted Hightower. The board was set. Liam looked panicked. He tried to block the door. I really prefer Dr. Hightower. He knows her history. If your wife is violent and armed as you claimed on the phone," Dr. Caldwell said icily, "then we need to assess her immediately. Unless you lied to emergency services?" Liam had no choice. He stepped aside. They gathered in the living room. Vanessa stood in the corner, watching. Liam sat opposite Charlotte, sweating. "Mrs. Sterling," Dr. Caldwell began, his pen poised. "Your husband claims you are experiencing hallucinations and violent outbursts. Do you know where you are?" Charlotte looked at the floor. She rocked back and forth slightly. Liam smirked. He thought the drugs he'd been feeding her for weeks had turned her brain to mush. "Mrs. Sterling?" Charlotte stopped rocking. She sat up straight. She smoothed her skirt. When she raised her head, her eyes were clear, sharp, and terrifyingly lucid. The fog was gone. "I am at my home, Dr. Caldwell," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "The date is October 14th. And the only person hallucinating in this room is my husband." Liam's jaw dropped. She's faking it. She's crazy. "I performed a full toxicology screen on myself this morning at an independent lab," Charlotte continued, pulling a folded paper from her pocket and handing it to the doctor. "You'll find it clean. Because for the last 2 months, I haven't been drinking the tea my husband spikes. I've been pouring it into the plant in the bedroom." She turned her gaze to Liam. "The tea was a little bitter, Liam," she whispered. "You really should work on your recipe." Liam lunged at her. "You bitch." The orderlies restrained him. Dr. Caldwell stood up. "Mr. Sterling, this woman is perfectly sane. However, your behavior suggests extreme instability." "Get out!" Liam screamed. "Everyone get out." But the show wasn't over. "Actually," Charlotte said, standing up, "we have one more event tonight. The Sterling Gala. And we're going to be late." She looked at Liam. "You're going to put on your tuxedo. You're going to come with me. And we're going to pretend everything is fine. Because if you don't, I hand over the evidence of the brake tampering to the homicide detectives waiting outside right now." Liam went pale. He trapped. If he ran, he was a murderer on the run. If he went to the gala, he might have a chance to spin the narrative, to get ahead of the story. His arrogance made him choose the gala. The ballroom was packed. Hundreds of the city's elite. Charlotte walked in with Liam on her arm. He was sweating through his suit. Vanessa followed close behind, looking like a cornered animal. Charlotte took the stage. She adjusted the microphone. She looked out at the sea of faces, partners, investors, friends. "Welcome," she said. "Tonight is about legacy. My father believed in truth. In transparency." She gestured to the massive screen behind her. "I wanted to share a special video with you all. A look behind the curtain of the Sterling family." Liam stepped forward, forcing a smile, thinking it was a tribute video. The screen flickered to life. It was the video from the closet. The recording from the wedding night. Liam's voice boomed through the speakers. "God, did you see her face? She looked like a lost puppy. It was pathetic." Vanessa's voice. 3 months, Liam. We gaslight her. We commit her. And then we take the money." The ballroom went deathly silent. Then the video cut to the hidden camera footage in the kitchen. Liam spiking the tea. Then to the bedroom. Vanessa and Liam laughing about how easy it was to kill the old man. The crowd gasped. Flashes of cameras erupted like lightning. Liam stood on stage, frozen. He looked at Charlotte. She wasn't looking at the screen. She was looking at him. And she was smiling. "It's over, Liam," she said, her voice amplified by the speakers. Liam turned to run, but the side doors burst open. Police officers flooded the room. Julian stepped out from the shadows, his badge on his belt. "Liam Davis, alias Kyrie," Julian shouted. "You are under arrest for the murder of Marcus Sterling, fraud, and attempted poisoning." Liam tried to fight. He shoved a waiter, scrambling for the exit. But Julian was faster. He tackled Liam to the ground in front of the horrified guests. Vanessa tried to slip away through the kitchen, but she was intercepted by two officers who slapped handcuffs on her wrists in front of the buffet line. Charlotte stood on the stage, watching the chaos. She didn't move. She watched them drag her husband away, kicking and screaming, stripping him of his dignity piece by piece. As the police car lights flashed against the ballroom windows, Charlotte felt a strange emptiness. They were caught. They were ruined. The world knew the truth. But as she walked down the steps of the stage, Julian met her. He didn't look celebratory. "We have a problem," he said quietly. "What?" Charlotte asked. "It's done." Liam made a call from the holding cell, Julian said. "He has a contingency plan. A failsafe he set up months ago in case he got caught." Charlotte's blood ran cold. "What kind of failsafe?" "He liquidated the offshore accounts before we could freeze them," Julian said. "And he hired someone. Someone outside." Charlotte looked at the flashing lights. The war wasn't over. The battle was won, but the monster had one last claw left to strike. And he had nothing left to lose. If you found out your partner had a fail-safe plan to destroy you even after they were caught, would you go into hiding, or would you stand your ground and fight to the death? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the next phase is the legal battle ends, and where the Real hunt begins. The handcuffs clicked shut, the cameras flashed, and for a moment, it felt like victory. Charlotte stood on that stage watching Liam and Vanessa being dragged away, believing the nightmare was over. But she forgot one crucial rule of survival. A predator is never more dangerous than when it is cornered, wounded, and has nothing left to lose. We like to think that justice is swift. We like to think that once the bad guy is in chains, the credits roll. But in the real world, money, even stolen money, can buy time. And time was the one thing Liam needed to turn a prison sentence into a final act of revenge. 3 days after the gala, the impossible happened. Liam's high-priced lawyers, paid with the last dregs of the funds he'd hidden in crypto wallets before the freeze, pulled a miracle. They argued that the video evidence was a deep fake, created by a vindictive ex-wife. They argued procedural errors during the arrest. The judge, swayed by a massive bond payment, granted Liam house arrest pending trial. He walked out of the precinct. He was ruined, his reputation incinerated, his assets seized, but he was free. He didn't go to a friend's house, he had none left. He checked into a grime-stained motel on the edge of the city, the kind of place where people go to disappear. He sat on the edge of a sagging mattress, staring at the peeling wallpaper. He had lost the mansion. He had lost the company. He had lost Vanessa, who was still rotting in a cell, unable to make bail. He had lost everything. And he blamed one person. Charlotte. He reached into his duffel bag. He didn't pull out a change of clothes. He pulled out a black, unregistered pistol he'd bought off a contact in the holding cell. He weighed it in his hand. The cold steel felt like the only power he had left. He wasn't planning on running. He wasn't planning on starting over. He was planning on taking Charlotte with him. 2 nights later, a storm battered the city. Thunder shook the foundations of the Sterling estate, and rain lashed against the windows like bullets. Inside, the mansion was dark. Charlotte had dismissed the staff early due to the weather. She sat in the library, a single lamp on, trying to read legal documents, but the words swam before her eyes. She felt it, a prickle on the back of her neck. The instinct she had honed over months of living with a sociopath. She wasn't alone. Suddenly, the lights in the mansion flickered and died. The power had been cut. Charlotte didn't scream. She didn't panic. She stood up, closed the file, and moved into the shadows. She knew the layout of this house better than anyone. It was her father's house, her fortress. Downstairs, the kitchen window shattered. A gloved hand reached in, unlocked the latch, and pushed the sash up. Liam climbed through, soaking wet, mud trailing off his boots. He moved with the desperate, jerky energy of a man on a suicide mission. He gripped the gun tight. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to end it. He crept through the hallway, the floorboards creaking under his weight. He headed straight for the stairs. He knew where she would be. The master bedroom. The place where it all began. But as he crossed the foyer, a voice cut through the darkness. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Liam spun around, raising the gun. Julian stepped out from the dining room. He wasn't wearing his tactical gear. Just jeans and a dark shirt. He looked calm, almost bored, leaning against the doorframe. "Get out of my way, Julian," Liam snarled, his voice cracking. "This doesn't concern you. It's between me and my wife." "She's not your wife anymore," Julian said, taking a slow step forward. "And you're trespassing. Police are 5 minutes out. Put the gun down, Liam. Don't die for this." "I'm already dead," Liam screamed. He fired. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. The muzzle flash lit up the room for a split second. Julian threw himself to the side, but he wasn't fast enough. The bullet tore through his shoulder. He grunted, stumbling back and crashing into a side table, knocking over a heavy vase. He hit the floor hard, clutching his bleeding arm. "Julian!" Charlotte screamed from the top of the stairs. Liam looked up. He saw her silhouette on the landing. A twisted, bloody smile broke across his face. He ignored Julian, who was struggling to get up, and sprinted up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. "Charlotte," he roared. "We're going to finish this." Charlotte didn't run to a bedroom. She didn't hide in a closet. Not this time. She ran down the hall toward the balcony doors. She threw them open and stepped out into the raging storm. The wind hit her like a physical blow. Rain instantly soaked her clothes. She backed up until her spine hit the cold iron railing. Behind her was a 3-story drop to the cobblestone driveway. In front of her was the monster. Liam burst onto the balcony. He kicked the doors shut behind him, trapping them outside. He raised the gun, aiming it squarely at her chest. Rainwater dripped from his hair into his eyes, but his gaze was locked on her. "Nowhere left to run, princess," he shouted over the thunder. "Look at you. Shaking. You thought you could outsmart me? You thought you could win." He took a step closer. The gun didn't waver. "I made you," he spat. "I picked you up when you were a broken little orphan. I gave you a life. And you destroyed mine." Charlotte stood there, hair plastered to her face, shivering. But she wasn't shivering from fear. She was shivering from adrenaline. She looked at the gun, then she looked at him. "You didn't make me, Liam," she said, her voice cutting through the wind. "You broke me. And then you forced me to put myself back together stronger than I ever was." "Shut up." Liam lunged forward, closing the distance. He wanted to see the fear in her eyes. He wanted to see her beg. "Beg me. Beg for your life." He was within striking distance now. He reached out with his free hand to grab her throat. That was his mistake. He expected the lost puppy. He expected the victim. He didn't expect the woman who had spent the last 3 months training with a former special ops investigator. As Liam grabbed for her, Charlotte didn't pull away. She stepped in. She grabbed his wrist, twisting it violently away from her body. At the same time, she drove her knee up, slamming it into his groin. Liam doubled over, gasping, the air leaving his lungs. The gun dangled loosely in his grip. Charlotte didn't stop. She grabbed the back of his head and slammed his face into the iron railing. Crunch. Liam howled, staggering back, blood pouring from his nose. He flailed blindly, trying to regain his balance on the slippery wet tiles. "You called me weak," Charlotte screamed, stepping forward. "You called me pathetic." Liam swung wildly, but he was disoriented. Charlotte saw the opening. She planted her back foot and delivered a powerful, calculated front kick squarely to his chest. It was the blow that ended the war. Liam flew backward. His legs hit the low railing, and his momentum carried him over. His eyes went wide. For a second, he hung in the air, suspended in the rain, staring at her in disbelief. Then gravity took over. He fell. There was a sickening thud below. Charlotte rushed to the railing and looked down. Liam had crashed onto the roof of Julian's parked car before rolling onto the pavement. He wasn't moving. The gun lay a few feet away, useless. Charlotte stood in the rain, her chest heaving. She waited for the guilt. She waited for the horror. But all she felt was the rain washing away the dirt, the lies, and the fear. The flashing lights of police cruisers swept up the driveway, illuminating the scene in bursts of red and blue. Julian limped out onto the balcony, clutching his shoulder. He looked down at the broken figure of Liam, then at Charlotte. Ideally, Julian groaned, leaning against the wall. We would have waited for the cops. But that was a hell of a kick. Charlotte walked over to him, checking his wound. You're bleeding. I've had worse, Julian said, looking at her with a mix of pride and relief. It's over, Charlotte. It's actually over. Down below, paramedics were swarming Liam. He was alive barely. A shattered leg, broken ribs, a concussion. He was screaming in pain as they loaded him onto the stretcher. Charlotte went downstairs to meet them. She walked right up to the ambulance as they were strapping him in. Liam looked up at her through swollen eyes. He tried to speak, tried to curse her, but he could only whimper. Charlotte reached into her pocket. She pulled out her wedding ring, the symbol of the perfect marriage he had used to enslave her. You're going to need money for the commissary, Liam, she said coldly. She tossed the ring. It bounced off his chest and landed on the stretcher sheet. Sell it, she said. It's the last thing you'll ever get from the Sterling family. The doors slammed shut. The ambulance drove away. Charlotte stood in the driveway as the rain slowed to a drizzle. She watched the taillights disappear. She was soaked, shivering, and exhausted. But she was free. 6 months later, the morning sun hit the leaves of the oak trees in the cemetery, turning them a brilliant gold. It was a crisp autumn day. Charlotte knelt in front of 2 marble headstones, Marcus and Eleanor Sterling. She placed a bouquet of fresh lilies on the grass. She traced the letters of her father's name. I did it, Dad, she whispered. The company is safe. The stocks are up. And the rats are gone. She stood up, brushing the dirt from her knees. She wasn't wearing the drab, conservative clothes Liam used to pick out for her. She was wearing a sharp, tailored navy suit. She looked like a CEO. She looked like the Iron Lady the press had started calling her. She heard footsteps on the gravel path behind her. She didn't flinch. She knew that stride. I thought I'd find you here, Julian said. She turned around. Julian looked different. He wasn't wearing his tactical black. He was wearing a suit, no tie, top button undone, but a suit nonetheless. His arm was fully healed, though a faint scar remained. I brought the final paperwork, Julian said, handing her a folder. Liam got life without parole. Vanessa took a plea deal, 20 years for testifying against him. They'll never hurt anyone again. Charlotte took the folder, but didn't open it. So that's it then. Case closed. Case closed, Julian nodded. He looked a little awkward, shifting his weight. I guess I'll be heading out. Got a job offer in Chicago. Private security for some tech firm. Charlotte smiled. It was a genuine, warm smile, the first real one in a long time. Chicago is too cold, she said. And besides, Sterling Industries has a vacancy. Julian raised an eyebrow. Oh, what position? Head of security, Charlotte said. It pays double what Chicago is offering. Plus, the boss is someone you already know you can work with. Julian chuckled, looking down at his shoes, then back up at her. Does the job description include breaking into safes and fighting off psychopaths on balconies? Hopefully not, Charlotte said, stepping closer to him. But it might include dinner. Tonight. Julian smiled. I think I can handle that. Narrator. They walked out of the cemetery together, not as victim and savior, but as partners. Charlotte returned to the mansion that night. She walked into the master bedroom. It was completely redecorated. The heavy curtains were gone, replaced by light, airy linen. The dark wood was painted white. She walked to the closet, the same closet where she had hidden on her wedding night, trembling in fear. She opened the doors. It was organized, pristine. She looked at her reflection in the mirror on the door. She didn't see a lost girl. She saw a survivor. She saw a warrior. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small black business card. Julian Bishop, private investigator. She looked at it one last time, remembering the moment he handed it to her, the lifeline in the dark. She didn't need the card anymore. She had the man, and she had herself. She tossed the card into the wastebasket. She turned off the lights, climbed into the center of the massive bed, and closed her eyes. The house was silent. Safe. For the first time in forever, Charlotte Sterling slept without dreaming of monsters. Because she knew if they ever came back, she would be waiting. And that is the story of how one woman turned her wedding night nightmare into the ultimate revenge. What about you? If you discovered your entire life was a lie, would you have the strength to play the long game like Charlotte? Or would you have burned it all down on day one? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Until next time, watch who you trust.